As a speaker, you want to develop your craft, but that alone will not develop your speaking business. Ed Rigsbee is specialized in pitching your speaking business to association and will help you connect to the speaking community through the Cigar PEG. Let's see what he has to say. Welcome to the Excellent Executive Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Katrina Beruus, and today we have Ed Rigsbee. Ed, I'm so happy to have you on my podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so Ed, you are a very well-known professional speaker. So tell us a little bit how you started your career.
Well, my professional speaking career actually started back in the mid-1970s. when I was selling sunglasses to ski shops. My background was as a ski shop manager in Yosemite National Park at Badger Pass. Anyway, I was observing the manufacturers' representatives from the ski companies do product clinics for the employees. And it's like, oh, this is interesting. So I bought a spectrometer that would, do all the technical stuff to prove that my product was as good as, I don't know if you remember the name Varney back in that era, but I discovered that for the ski shops, if I would do a product clinic once every month or two, it would really increase my sales. And so that led into me then teaching other sales reps how to do these kind of product clinics. And it led into some of my retailers wanting me to help their salespeople. And then it eventually, after I met Patricia Fripp in 1984, it turned into a passion to get into it professionally. And not that I wasn't doing it as part of my job for several years, but in 1991, I launched full-time as a professional speaker doing nothing else.
Indeed. And you also, tell me a little bit about Association and Society of Speaker Community.
Sure. One of the things that the way I grew my professional speaking business since early 90s, late 80s, was to find the decision maker through giving articles that I'd written to the editors. And, fast forward for many years, since the mid 1990s, I'd been doing programs for professional speakers at speaker chapters, speaker associations all around the world on how to use this method. And when the pandemic hit, it became even more crucial to help speakers. And as I've advanced in age and decided that I'm not quite as interested in spending as many hours with my rear end in an airline seat, it seemed like a perfect match. I've been doing it for 3 decades. Now it's time for me to more aggressively help others. And so I and Aidan Crawford got together. He's the tech whiz that I don't do tech. And, I had the background, and it was, I want to say it was a match made in heaven, but it sure turned out to be a really good partnership. And a couple of years, we've grown the community from 0 to over 100 people. So
impressive.
Pretty exciting. Yeah. And it's all about helping professional speakers with their business development. It's not about teaching them how to be a better speaker. It's just assuming they already know that. It's saying, here is how, here are the tools, here are the places that help them to drive more business. That's what the ASSC is all about, driving more business.
Excellent. And I've been to one of your courses and was really blown away.
Thank you.
Yeah, super, very pragmatic in a step-by-step process to do that. So, but you also developed the Cigar PEG Philanthropy. So, my goodness, another association that you've developed and created.
Yeah, apparently I have my feet firmly planted in midair with all the things I'm doing. Yeah, back in 1999, I and a friend decided it was time to kind of stir it up a little bit at the National Speakers Association. And way back then, they had PEGs, which were professional emphasis groups, for sales speakers, Christian speakers, school speakers, so forth and so on. Just, a lot of associations call them SIGs, special interest groups. And just for fun, just to kind of stir it up, this person's name was Grant Doyle. He and we came up with this idea sitting in a bar in Banff, Canada, or Banff, Alberta, Canada. And we decided to start the Cigar PEG. And some friends of ours had done a pool PEG, but they were starting to get mainstream. And it started out as a joke. We made a bunch of money the first year. We had no clue what we were going to do with the money. We said, hey, we wonder if we give the money to the National Speakers Association Foundation, if they'd mention us next year. So we gave them all the money we made. They didn't mention us next year. Fast forward, just kept at it. And today, 20 some odd years later, we've given over $835,000 to various causes, including about $450,000 to the National Speakers Association Foundation. So it's been a fun ride. And just as important as giving the money, we've created community for the professional speakers, a place where people can get together, they can chat about things, discuss things. And, we do that through our weekly Zoom call and our big annual event, fundraising event, then the 2 elite masterminds we do every year. So yeah, it's a fun group, fun people.
So not only you created the community, but they also made it philanthropic by giving it back to the NSA. I hope they mentioned you this time.
Yeah, well, it was funny. In the year 2000, Nito Quabain, who was the chairman of the foundation, he called me up one day and says, you have to be at the foundation event. And it's like, okay, why? And he says, just be there. So that summer in Orlando, 2000, the foundation gave the Cigar PEG a pewter a plate, plaque, award, just thanking us for I think up to that point, we had given the foundation $20,000. So I joked with everybody when I showed everybody at the party that year, I said, here's our $20,000 ashtray. But it's been interesting. We don't do it for the recognition. And we get a little bit of recognition, but not a lot. If we did it for the recognition, we would be sorely disappointed. So that's not our motivation.
So just tell us a little bit how you organize this philanthropic. Do you have speakers, give voluntarily services?
Sure. Yeah. So the Cigar PEG is a IRS recognized 5013C nonprofit public charity, which means we can give letters of donation where like business leagues can't. And our main fundraising event is at the Summer National Speakers Convention meeting. We put on a big party and we get speakers / consultants, people that offer services that help speakers. We get them to donate their services. In exchange, they get a lot of promotion. And then the speakers, we have a live auction and the speakers bid on it. Basically, the speakers are looking, we're putting together $10,000, $20,000 packages that the speakers are buying for $5,000 to $10,000. So the speakers are getting a great deal on the package. The people that provide the package are donating to Cigar PEG, and in turn, they're getting a lot of exposure. I remember one time, Rick Frischman, that puts on Author 101 University, I was at one of his events, and he was kind of complaining to me that he can't get anywhere with NSA. And I said, well, Rick, not a problem. We'll fix this. And I invited him to come to our event. That was the year that we were in Philadelphia. And he had a wonderful package that I kind of pushed him to make. We sold it. We made a lot of money. He got a ton of exposure. We made some money. Everybody was happy. So that's how we do it. I mean, a small amount of our revenue is from membership dues, but not a lot. The biggest part of our revenue is the annual charity auction.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And you created this. This is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Katrina, the first year that we did this, I got Ed Robinson, a friend of mine, a speaker in San Antonio. I had him help me find a place to put this party on. And then I negotiated with the owner of the venue for some T-shirts. And so basically, he got one of the tequila companies to sponsor, give a bunch of T-shirts. We sold the T-shirts to speakers. And the deal is if you show up at the party, you get a discount on your meal and you get $2 shooters, all night tequila shooters. And it turned out really, really well. I was chatting with a friend of mine, Susie Baez, a gal. I said, hey, next year, would you like to be our Cigar PEG goddess? And she says, that'd be great, but why don't you get somebody more famous? So again, Patricia Fripp, who's a friend of mine, it's her fault that I'm in this business.
That's right.
Yeah, and with Patricia, using the word goddess is a real easy sell. So I asked her if she'd like to be our Cigar PEG poster goddess the second year. She said, okay. And that was the year that she was starting to really launch her coaching work. And she said to me, well, Ed, if you really want to make some real money, why don't you do an auction? And I said, well, that's a good idea, Patricia. Who should I auction? And she says, me. And it's like, okay. So it was her idea to come up with the auction. And then, just over the years, I've just grown it and grown it and grown it to where, in the early years, the auctions brought in, a few bucks, and we'd have silent auctions, this, that, and the other. But over the last probably 15 years, the live auction really is a powerhouse fundraising element for what we do.
Well, how wonderful. And tell us a little bit where this money goes.
About half goes to the National Speakers Association Professional Speaker Benefit Fund, part of the foundation. Then we donate to the American Cancer Society. We donate to SADS, which is Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. We donate to Cure PSP, that works for Alzheimer's. We've donated to a number of other various groups. Sometimes there's been, we put together speaker emergency relief funds, just a host of different things. But I'd say, year in and year out, about half the money goes to the speakers, the NSA Foundation, and the other half goes to Cure PSP, SADS, and the American Cancer Society.
Wonderful, really. Okay, so you've created the Association of Speaker Community, you've done the Cigar PEG, so what next?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm always looking around. Katrina, it seems to me that for some reason I see things differently than many people do. I guess that means I'm odd. I see holes that other people don't see. Like when I started the Cigar PEG, there was a hole. There was a need for some of the speakers that didn't drink the Kool-Aid to have a place to hang out, filled that need. I've even started an association CEO group. So every Tuesday via Zoom, I have trade association and professional society CEOs on a mastermind call, and we discuss issues. Well, when the pandemic hit, I saw a hole. The same thing with the Association of Society Speakers community. I saw a hole. For instance, the National Speakers Association does a pretty good job of, teaching people the business and teaching them the craft. But what they don't do is actually help people get business. And that's what most speakers need. I need help actually getting the business, not just to, know how to use my CRM or to know how to use the pause in my speech and various other things. So I'm always kind of looking around at, what need is not being served. So as far as what's next, I don't know. I have a Post-it as I'm talking to you. It's on my wall and I'm looking at it. And the Post-it says, the power of relationship bank deposits. Well, in my second book on strategic alliance development, I talked about relationship bank deposits, relationship bank withdrawals. And I've been talking about that ever since. And that Post-it is sitting on the wall looking at that. And I've been looking at that for 6 months and go, do I want to write a book on that topic? Do I want to, develop a speech on that topic? I'm not sure. Maybe. Another thing that Aiden and I are doing, we're working on a book right now for the professional speakers on this whole method of how to get in the back door selling to associations. So I'm always looking around at things to do. I'm not completely sure what's going to be my next great, best idea. Maybe spending more time at home. Who knows?
Well, that's not a bad idea. But tell us a little bit about your books. I have here right with me the Return on Investment of Membership, Today's Missing Link for Explosive Growth. Tell us a little bit about that book and other books that you've written.
Yeah. Well, so my first book was titled The Art of Partnering. I was an early author on the subject of partnering and strategic alliances. My second book, Developing Strategic Alliances, again, same area. My third book, Partner Shift, published by Wiley, was about strategic alliance development. And then I took a left turn and wrote a book about the history of soccer in my community, which, I consider that my community rent. And then the last book, the one you mentioned, The ROI of Membership, back in the year 2000, I stumbled on a method. It was qualitative research before, I hate to admit this, but before I even knew what qualitative research was. Anyway, I stumbled onto a method of how do I help associations understand what is the actual dollar number that members get. So every year members have to pay their dues. Well, so every year, how much value are they getting for those dues? And through qualitative research, I'm able to actually extract from members what that number is on average. So then associations or societies can say to potential members, for every dollar you invest in membership, our members tell us if you use all of the features of membership, you get approximately $40 back in value. And to have that kind of information that's honest, that's real, that it's substantiated by the members, it's believable. When associations just create these stupid ROI calculators and this and that and the other, where the staff figures it, it's not real, it's not believable, it's not honest. But by having the members themselves say, here's, every feature of membership, every value item, put numbers on it. And that's huge for associations. So that's what this last book was about. And actually, I'm really happy with it, and the results and the feedback and the sales.
Of course, I did my PhD with qualitative research, but tell our listeners a little bit about the process you did to get the information.
Sure, absolutely. So what I do is I work with the association staff. I go, let's look at all of the features of membership, meaning these are things that somebody can obtain only through membership. And a lot of associations have a hard time understanding their legislative advocacy work is not a feature of membership because the entire industry gets the value. So we have to look at, okay, all of this, let's just say this package of features, and it's usually 20 to 30. You can only access this by being a member. So let's go through in a focus group, get my favorite number is about 30 people in the room. I've done it with a couple hundred, I've done it with less, but my favorite's about 30. And we go through each feature. I talk to them about it. I explain to them various ways that they can determine for themselves what the actual ROI, what the actual, dollar number is value. And then we have a negotiation in the group to where we come up with a number that it's a little low for some, it's a little high for others, but most of the people in the room say, yeah, I could sell that number. I could explain. And then one by one. This is actually, it's quite painful for some people, but we go through these 20 or 30 items. And at the end of this time together, and it usually takes me 90 minutes to 2 hours, the people in the room, the members, and I ask for a wide range of members, young, old, white, black, boy, girl, whatever, new into the business, old in the business. And this assembly of members says, yes, for this feature, for this feature, for this feature, for this feature, it's worth X, Y, and Z in dollars. And then, we look at the cost of membership, we divide it out, and we have a number. After that, I teach associations. They say, okay, what do we do with it? I teach them how to put it on their website. I teach them how to build a member ROI recruitment brochure, with the numbers. So that way members can actually go out and use it as a cheat guide to help them talk to their colleagues. And, it's published electronically and hard copy. And it's a phenomenal tool for reminding members why they should stay a member, reminding them the return on investment they're receiving, and for encouraging non-members, new people, to come and join the association. It's done just, let's face it, we have no troubles explaining this is why it's a good business decision, it's a good career decision, and it's a good financial decision.
Wonderful. Yes, you could do a full-time job just doing that for associations.
Yes. For a long time, Katrina, that's just about all I was doing. Is going around doing these qualitative research sessions, and not quite so much right now. I'm kind of resting these days, but
you're allowed to,
Yeah, but the calls are coming in again. Now that associations, when we're recording this, associations are coming out from the pandemic. They use the excuse that members left because of the pandemic, and now they're going, oh my gosh, we've dropped X, Y, whatever number of members. We got to bring this thing back up. And now all of a sudden they're interested again in doing this kind of work so they can, recruit members.
Wonderful. Well, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the podcast. Where can people get a hold of you?
Well, probably the best is my website. It's Rigsbee, Rigsbee, like Riggs and a bumblebee, Rigsbee.com. At Rigsbee.com, you can find out most of the stuff I'm doing. There's on the navigation, you can click on the navigation on Ed's communities and find the communities I put together. My email address is there, my phone number is there. Anybody can easily get a hold of me through Rigsbee.com.
Thank you very, very much, Ed. It's a pleasure.
Thanks.
Take care. Huh?
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Excellent Executive Coaching Podcast. You can subscribe to all future podcasts at excellentexecutivecoaching.com. Join us each Wednesday to learn more about the latest trends in leadership techniques and bring your coaching to the next level. To learn more about Dr. Burris' CEO Mastermind, use the contact form at excellentexecutivecoaching.com.